When Ross is behind you, I expect to get put firewall deep in the wall. I mean, that's just the things that he does. So, unfortunately.
Here is what happens when one of NASCAR's most polarizing drivers has his worst week of the season. And somehow, it keeps getting worse. Ross Chastain qualified second at the Circuit of the Americas. He won Stage 1. He led laps. And he still walked away with a 35th place finish, 2 laps down. That result alone would have been a brutal story. But the story did not stop there. Because days after that race, NASCAR dropped official penalties on the number 1 Trackhouse Racing team, and now 2 of Chastain's pit crew members are sitting at home while the season rolls forward without them. And on top of that, there is still the Austin Hill incident at Atlanta hanging over his head, creating the kind of controversy that follows Ross Chastain everywhere he goes. Let's start at COTA because that is where everything unraveled. Chastain came into the Circuit of the Americas weekend with genuine momentum. He put his Chevrolet on the outside of the front row, dominated enough of the early race to take Stage 1, and was running inside the top 10 following the final green flag pit stop of the day. For a while, it looked like Trackhouse was going to walk out of Texas with a strong result and some much-needed championship points. Then came lap 75. Under green flag conditions, Chastain's right rear wheel detached at the entry to turn 19. His car spun wildly and tore through the gravel trap. Chastain kept his foot on the throttle, managed to avoid getting stuck, and drove the damaged car back to pit lane. The detached wheel was left sitting on the racetrack, forcing the only natural caution of the entire event. His radio call afterward was as direct as it gets. "I lost a wheel," he told his team. NASCAR held Chastain on pit road for 2 laps as the at-track portion of the penalty. He never recovered those laps. With the rest of the race running green, he finished 35th, 2 laps down. A catastrophic collapse from a driver who had qualified second and looked like a legitimate contender earlier that same afternoon. Then came Tuesday, March 3rd, and the official penalty report made things significantly worse for the number 1 team. NASCAR announced the suspension of 2 Trackhouse Racing pit crew members, Jackman Josh Appleby and rear tire changer Kenneth Pozega. Both will be sidelined for the next 2 NASCAR Cup Series points races, Phoenix Raceway on March 8th and Las Vegas Motor Speedway on March 15th. The duo will not be eligible to return until March 22nd at Darlington Raceway. The penalties fall under Sections 8.8.10.4 A and D of the NASCAR Rulebook, which states that a lost tire beyond pit road results in a 2-race suspension for 2 pit crew members and a 2-lap penalty. The rule is automatic. There is no gray area. What makes this even more notable is the context surrounding it. This was the only penalty issued for the entire COTA weekend, across the Cup Series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and the Truck Series at St. Pete. The number 1 Trackhouse car stood alone on that penalty report. And for historical perspective, since NASCAR introduced the next-gen car in 2022, roughly 60 loose wheel penalties have been issued across the sport. This was the very first time it had ever happened to the number 1 Trackhouse Racing team. Now here is why the timing of this suspension makes it significantly more damaging than it would be at any other point in the season. Through 3 races in 2026, Chastain's results read like this: a 20th at Daytona, a 3rd at Atlanta, and a 35th at COTA. He currently sits 23rd in the Cup Series standings, sitting 26 points behind the chase cutline. Analysts have already started flagging him as one of the drivers who needs to course correct before the gap becomes unmanageable. Meanwhile, Tyler Reddick has opened the year with 3 consecutive wins, building a cushion that the rest of the field can barely see over. While Chastain is replacing suspended crew members and absorbing bad timing penalties, the championship leader is lapping the competition in the standings. The cruelest part of the picture is this: Chastain's driver rating ranks 10th in the entire Cup Series so far in 2026. He has spent an average of 64% of each race running inside the top 15, with an average running position of 15.3. The speed is genuinely there. The results are not following. And now, heading into Phoenix Raceway, one of the most pit strategy-dependent tracks on the entire schedule, he will be doing it without his Jackman and his rear tire changer. The timing could hardly be worse. Before moving forward, one distinction needs to be made clearly, because this story has already been misrepresented in some corners of the internet. NASCAR did not suspend Ross Chastain. This is not a penalty for dirty driving. It is not a response to an on-track altercation or an aggressive move on another competitor. This is a technical and operational failure by the pit crew, a lost wheel beyond pit road, and the penalty that follows is automatic under the rulebook. There is no discretion involved. NASCAR applied the same rule it applies to every team in the same situation. The problem is that casual fans see the words NASCAR, Chastain, and suspension in the same headline, and the narrative starts writing itself. The number 1 team was penalized because they lost a tire. That is the full story of the penalty itself. The frustration is not about the fairness of the rule, it is about the timing, landing directly on top of what was already a shaky start to the season. And then there is Atlanta. On February 21st, at Echo Park Speedway in Hampton, Georgia, Chastain competed in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race as a Cup Series invader. Austin Hill had been dominant, leading late and looking like a near-certain winner heading into the final lap. Chastain had led 11 consecutive laps earlier in the race before Hill reclaimed the position. As the white flag flew, Chastain made his move. He got into the left rear of Hill's Chevrolet in turn 3, sending Hill into a slide. Hill masterfully saved the car but tumbled outside the top 10, finishing 12th. The direct beneficiary of that chaos was Sheldon Creed, who inherited the lead and went on to take his first career NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series win. Hill was not interested in softening his reaction afterward. "When Ross is behind you, I expect to get put firewall deep in the wall," Hill said. "I mean, that's just the things he does." Asked whether he planned to speak with Chastain after the race, Hill was equally blunt. "I couldn't care less to talk to Ross Chastain. I have nothing to say to him." Chastain offered his own explanation, pointing to the racing line he chose. "If I would have went to his right rear, I think I would have had to lift out of the gas, versus going to the bottom, I'd have been wide open," Chastain said. "I believe it's a racing crash. It's not an accident. We crashed. But yes, it was racing." Not everyone in the sport agreed with Hill's framing. Ryan Blaney, speaking on Door Bumper Clear, took the opposite position. "At the end of that race, I don't blame either of them for doing what they did. Austin has to throw the block and Ross is going to take the run. It's just part of it." The divide in those two responses captures exactly why Ross Chastain remains such a lightning rod. The same move that Hill calls a pattern of behavior, Blaney calls standard last-lap racing. And that split has followed Chastain throughout his entire career. What is not debatable is the outcome. Sheldon Creed won. Austin Hill finished 12th after what could have been back-to-back wins to open 2026. And the Ross Chastain controversy overshadowed the actual winner of the race, the Chastain effect, operating exactly as it always does. Taken separately, the COTA penalty and the Atlanta incident are two completely different situations. One is a pit crew operational failure. The other is a last-lap racing contact that people will argue about for weeks. But placed side by side, they create the same result. Ross Chastain is once again at the center of multiple simultaneous NASCAR stories, and none of them are clean. NASCAR seasons run on rhythm as much as they run on speed. Teams need weeks where they execute cleanly, bank points, and move forward. Right now, Chastain and Trackhouse do not have that. The third-place finish at Atlanta proved the car can run at the front. But that result is sandwiched between a 20th at Daytona, a 35th at COTA, a crew suspension, and an ongoing controversy over the Hill incident. He needs to average 23.0 points per race from here to reach 580 points, roughly the threshold required to finish 16th in the chase standings by the end of the regular season. In 2025 he averaged 25.3 points per race, which means the pace is achievable. But sitting 23rd in the standings after 4 races, heading into Phoenix without 2 key pit crew members, with Tyler Reddick already 3 wins deep, achievable and comfortable are 2 very different things right now for the number 1 team.